You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
Hey, what's good? There we are. How's it going? It is Zerilath. We are here with Trigenesis on TFLive.com. I have Sean Bond coming on again. He's just getting his Skype together right now because we had a really great time. We're becoming friends, and it's been cool. So he was gracious enough to want to come right back because I wanted to talk more about the time wars, that have been happening. Like I've intuitively felt it, most primarily in 2020, but kind of showing itself ahead of time with everything that was happening ahead of that. So I'm just waiting waiting a minute over here or so as Sean gets his Skype going. If his Skype doesn't quite get going, then we'll FaceTime it again like we did before because the audio will run through the system, which is how I fixed it last time. Okay, hold on a second. Sean Bond invite you to join a... Yeah. Okay. Yep. 1 second. There we go. Hold on. Okay, hello? Hold on a second. I'm assuming that this is it. Am I still here? I'm still on this, right? I'm not on hold? Good. All right. There we go. Excellent. Okay, hold on. He's here. I just, how do I merge him into the call? How do I do this? Add participant. Thank you. There he is. Add. Hello. Hello. Oh, he's connecting. We got him, folks. We got him. Hello. Hey, Sean.
Hey.
There we are. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How have you been?
Good. I've been great. I just broke a 3.5 day fast. So I'm feeling pretty supercharged and cleansed right now.
Oh yeah? Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it's good stuff. I'm feeling pretty good. Thanks for asking about me this week.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a bunch of things that go on when I do a fast. It's interesting to the roller coaster of going through hunger, transmuting it, then bring it to where it doesn't affect you as much because all the attachment and triggers throughout life one picks up. And then once you go through them, the hunger goes away, and then you don't feel like you need to eat.
Yeah, precisely. When I do a 3.5 day fast, because I've done it before, day 2 is called the Crucible. Day 2 is the day where like that hunger is coming in strong, and where it's a little bit more than just willpower, because your body is really kind of talking to you about it. Right. And so that's where that's where the mental discipline that is akin to the spirituality comes into play with this stuff. And sometimes you can measure that with science, but the science hardly matters compared to the personal change in oneself that makes you level up.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like, based on evidence of doing it myself anyway, a lot of that goes on, a lot of detoxing, a lot of letting go, a lot of purifying, rebalancing the immune system and the endocrine system and digestive and cravings and programs and ego and a lot of attachment and shadow, and it like purifies it all and does a bunch of internal alchemy. And each of the motions mean stuff. Also, some people get stomach aches or headaches or all kinds of things. And if they detox too fast and if they got a lot of toxins, they can get really sick. But it can even bring somebody back from being in cancer. I've seen like the people that do it, they starve like a parasite within them, and then a lot of that, and also depossession like works with that too. Yeah.
There was a tremendously cool synchronicity. Today, Robert Sepper, who I'm a big fan of his channel, I need to get some of his books. He just released a whole spiritual science of fasting short film, like 15-minute, one of his 15-minute films. And it was just really good hearing what he was going over, right? Because he's talking about like 7-day plus fasts, but he also talks a little bit about the 3-day fast, which is essentially what I did, 3.5 days from morning to morning, right? And it's cool because like things like your natural HGH kicks in after 3.5 days. It's like all these guys taking HGH. It's just like, bro, just fast for 3.5 days. But no, you're too attached to your muscles because you know that it's going to eat into your muscles a little bit, and you can't take a break for 3 seconds, right? So that's part of like the mental acuity and discipline. The thing that makes all the difference in having a naturally healthy and strong body versus something that you kind of forced into a weird thing in your head.
Yeah, I heard fasting and working out also amplifies a bunch of chemical releases in the body to evolve the body faster. So there's a lot of, it's like an opportunity point when fasting to imprint the new you and while letting go of the old self. And there's a lot of symbology with it, I find, back in time as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm sure what you're doing in a fast is incredibly healthy for your genetic maintenance too, because of the decisions we make that change our genetics.
Yeah. I've I love going through genetics and esoteric anatomy. There's all the secrets of the internal body that holds and all the representations of the map of the universe and the human body and the chakras and the aspects of consciousness on the layers of levels and stages of the mystery school of the self and exploration of what your mind is and consciousness and spirit, soul, emotional body, physical body, and where does it all connect in the light that extends into all the types of spectrums, as it is the source of all the photon, the connection between all the photons being pretty much as if it's a source photon, going back, like science has like gone to how it looks like they're all connected. Everything in light has an original light, and it's like lasering off of all and reflecting and creating all the stuff that's been emanating throughout space and time.
Yeah. Like the molecular or atomic universe, like atoms and pixels, are so similar in their attributes, if you will, that it's why people have kind of a weird understanding of what people say when we're in a matrix or a simulation. And now, of course, today I want to talk about the Time Wars today, and of course, understanding our experience of the Time Wars comes under understanding how things are being energetically affected in the system. I think I heard you coin a term for it on your last show with you did with Doug Dietrich. Brilliant stuff. Shout out to Douglas Dietrich. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And you because you didn't like the word multiverse, and you called it like the what'd you call it?
The temporal verse.
The temporal verse. Yeah, and I like where you're thinking with that, because it almost seems like in every imaginationable multiverse story that has ever been written, all of it just kind of offshoots from like what ifs if a certain pivotal event happens, right? Like what if after creation, all sorts of creation was more along the terms of magic, because you're still somehow getting it grounded into something relatable to you, especially because, often your main characters are going to either be like an animal that has human feelings and conversations and things within its animal spirit nature kind of thing, or you've got some sort of bipedal type of person, which just you're looking at something that akin to human, akin to upright apes, or something like that, but it doesn't seem to stray that far often enough. And I think that's because it kind of comes from like how far back is tapping into a alternate timeline like going, right? Because you're talking about stuff that's not just alternate to your personal timeline, but you're talking about like there could be a branch that is a tangent of a branch that may be incurring in these situations. And I think that the first question to ask is to talk about kind of like before we talk about who's fighting who, why don't we just talk about like who's out there? Because if there's this time travel, it's basically time networking within the 0 point of here and now between us. Then I almost want to say, what's the commerce? What's the traffic of time like at this 0 point, right? What's at stake?
Really good question. A lot to it. Okay. Okay. So there's a lot to like build upon with that. So I'll try to do it best to your question. One can imagine in going back, if in our concepts of the Big Bang and all energy is connected to original source, there's different territories for experience for that in universes and everything below it and the micro. And then multiverses together and going upwards. A lot of different souls are born at different times and emanations, usually in things like stars and the centers of galaxies and centers of universes. And the grand macro creator having the grand authority to spawn life within its experience, and then it delegate that down to micro expressions of territory within it. And it goes infinitely up and down. It has that pattern, but I haven't gone past a certain point, which has to do with the source within all sources, is what I call it. The thing that's within with everyone, that's like the arch creator that is connected to everyone currently in expression. So
is that what causes? Because I'm the best reference point I can give for it, but I know I've heard it in mysticism that the movie got it from was from Donnie Darko with the projection that comes out of the sternum that kind of is like their immediate kind of fate, like where they're walking kind of thing. Do you remember that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's got a lot of good symbology in it. Like, will bring an interesting part of a person out in their emotional experience when they watch it. It's got can you explain a little bit more on this? I'm trying to remember the scene.
Yeah, for sure. It plays out in a couple of places because like it's like a little tunnel that looks, it looks like it's like a liquid kind of etherical tunnel that kind of projects out from like the sternum, maybe either the heart-centered area or like the gut, like lower self or middle self, basically. And it projects outward in the path that somebody is traveling. So if they're just like the scene shows, I think his sister was walking to the fridge. And so the thing went to the fridge all of a sudden, and it's the first time he's seeing it, and he's seeing it's attached to his sister, and it's condensing as she's closing in on the fridge, gets the thing out of the fridge, and it goes away, and then it moves to like around the corner, and then she walks around the corner. And he sees it because his time travel nexus problem gave him that the temporal sight, if you will. And so now he's seeing at certain times these lines of where people are going, projecting out of them.
Yeah, and it's like a deep movie when you see it. Like, oh, what would it be like if somebody had these abilities? And like, not to mean to spoil anything, but like, it goes down a dark path in their realization that all the timelines kind of sucked for him. So, and him taking his life would somehow bring them all the other people to avoiding.
Yeah.
What? Maybe he thought it was the best timeline, but it's pretty sad.
Right. Well, it kind of plays into without going there, because it's not like a superhero movie. It's not trying to it's not world building. It's not a world building story. But if you look at how the Time Variant Authority in Loki operates, it's almost like an invisible Time Variant Authority showing him all these horrible things will continue to happen because this is the wrong timeline. You were supposed to be in bed and go and meet your maker. You do not belong in this future. You're throwing things out of whack, causing a curse, right? Like, so there's this guilt that this eccentric kind of rebellious but yet ultimately good kid is kind of dealing with.
Yeah, like because I remember him like making a tunnel thing and like tapping on like glass of like the reality and doing the weird stuff. Friend of the rabbit and the dead person. Yeah.
That's. Yeah, there's interesting concepts there. Like I was recently listening to something. It was from Carlos Castaneda's stuff. I was listening to an audiobook, and it was talking about knowing your death, like as if your death is a particular spirit or something like that, right? And it's like knowing your death puts all other kind of circumstances into perspective, almost as a way of taking away fear. And when I heard that, I understood that because that's in the Norse sense of the spirit of Valhalla, right? It's just like, you know, when you're going to die in battle, so on and so forth, which gets you into Odinic heaven. And so thus you go off and you are braver about a number of things because of fate.
What do you think fate is?
Fate are the unconscious. It's something that's sitting in our unconscious, because it's the part of it's the choices that we missed. It's the choices in our blind spots that we don't get because of our level of unconsciousness, right? And you expand your control of your past and your future in the exploration of this underworld. That's what I think is going on.
What do you think in the concept of balancing fate with free will?
Oh God, that's something I'm always thinking about. I'm always because when I my love of astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I just love knowing myself better through my chart, and just getting into a good chill state about it, where I can, be compatible with anybody, in a sense, which comes with my Libra ascendant anyway. But anyway, in my Vedic chart, but that's the dance. It's the dance of free will and fate, and you see the people who dance that by the ones who go against the unwise of the social norms, when their choices are very, very thorough. They're making the best informed decisions that they actually can, instead of a lazy informed decision from trusted sources, right? There's an intellectual aspect as well as listening to the intuitive and the gut and the heart. It's all these things coming together that takes your fate, and I see it as taking a burden off of the Norns.
Yeah, I agree, and people should, with alignment to natural law, go out and or go within, more so, having to do with time and space and the origin of concepts of experience put together that build upon each other, that go back to original sources that created out of the branch of the entireness of everyone everyone. The authorities of time and ability of the reflections of the creations that emanate in experience off of the human body and other experiences of many kind and creatures and animals and sentience, to interact with the origins of the soul and spirit, and the spirit tree going back of eminence of all the nodal points that are the fruit that grows the trees that bear the fruit of that type of authority and experience in control, for a way to make a system that orientates most of the collectives in a direction that is in alignment with unity consciousness, as well as the natural law of interaction with all aspects of our consciousness, that's expressing itself in free will to have its own experience and branch off and as they go through all the experiences, grow and make more of themselves and branch off more selves and generations and ways to organize it, light and dark and neutral, and all the expressions within and all their purposes.
We have about a minute and a half. Just letting you know, about a minute and a half till the break music kicks in. Go ahead and finish your thought. I'm going to leave a cliffhanger question.
Sure. Yeah, the fates are interesting and nice, but they're also deadly. So all the consciousnesses of their expression, be careful with, and you want to gain favor and kindness and friendship and graces, and there's all kinds of beyond just the norms, and that can observe, create, influence, interact with in a high chess move of authority with other players on the chess game of Earth and other places.
Indeed. Now, after the break, I want to talk about getting into now, like we'll talk about some of these specific players, because there's specific things like, like I think the Dracos I've heard are major in the timeline games. The Zeta Reticulans, because they screwed up their genetics and need to come back in time to do this, that, and the other thing. 30 seconds here. So, so obviously there's a certain way that's the right way that the timeline is supposed to flow. And then there's the influencers upon it. There's good guys, bad guys. It's irritating to think about how the incursion levels for the good guys work. And it's just do I just have to perform a spell every day to take part in the war? We're going to answer these questions after the break.
Tenderloin in San Francisco. What an experience. If you just spend a day there and walk the streets where those lonely walk, and go eat where they eat and listen to some of those stories, you come away with more of a sense of value. Because the true values of life come by the contrast. And unless you experience more of the contrast, even the values you consider valuable become a bit shallow if you don't understand the contrast. It's hard to really appreciate winning until you've done some losing. And if you've done some failing, success now becomes a much larger worth and value and commodity if you understand a bit of the other side. So part of this is just deliberately go where experiences beyond your own touch your life to get somewhat of an education as to the contrast of life and the differences. It'll educate your mind and educate your spirit. And sure enough, that extra worth will start showing up in your sentences and your words. They'll be weightier. They'll be heavier. They'll mean more when you talk to somebody.
It's amazing how people have been raving about Aya Life all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with Aya Life, it's a 99% pure CBD oil. But the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with Aya Life. The reports have been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to ayalife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ayalife.com. AYA-life.com.
Starseeds, lightworkers, and indigos
Real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
This is Trigenesis. Thank you for being here tonight. My guest is the founder of the Psionic League, PsionicLeague.com, Sean Bond. And tonight we are talking about the timelines, the temporal verse, aka the multiverse. He coined temporal verse. I'm probably going to try and make that a thing now, but time and the time wars and things like this. And we just left off with the question about who the major influencing players are and what the natural state of the timeline is supposed to be and everybody's relationship with it. So, Sean, take it away.
Hi. How's it going? How was the break for you? I was contemplating the question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Whole foot massage through it. It was great.
Okay, so, yeah, and you asked also, what do we have to do to participate in the Timeline Wars? Do we have to do a spell every day? The players... there's a lot to them. You can see it kind of like some big source creation that I call the source with all sources. It's like the apex prime or whatever you want to go into. That's within everyone's hearts. It was created by something. It does not know what it is. It's kind of like inherited. It has evidence for it by what it inherited from it in shadow and the negative trauma of not having parents, so it feels abandoned, and then it compressed all the negative. At some point it compressed all the negative stuff in shadow into ball of itself, and then it detached from it and kind of birthed two pure selves and a one that compresses all the shadow into it, and that became branches, two trees that I call the prime light source and prime dark source. And then most people on the planet that are, especially the light beings, are emanating from the prime light source. And then, there's a bunch of invaders of different types of creations that are chess moving into this game and making a bunch of chess players by spawning off of themselves and many branches that they're influencing ultimately. With their line of fate for the lineages it spawns. And then they're kind of warring against each other in this big play and chess game to evolve them both, because you only get better by in the game of chess by playing a better opponent. So they make each other grow, light and dark, and then there's things spawning from that big ball that source with all sources, had detached from, that became the prime dark source, and then it branched off to a bunch of different concepts of experience. And some of the spectrums were evil, pure evil, chaotic evil, order evil, uncontrollable evil, a bunch of different expressions, and then ones for different actions like death and destruction and all the things. And then that kind of you can track back where in the source that is the dark player branches off from into your personal games, or all the entanglement or things that are limiting that go into the game of Earth and its invasion, and the chess move and war back and forth between light and dark over the creation, and all their chess move voting for what is the creation of this realm.
Yeah, it's basically that's just like that makes perfect sense, because that's just like Melchior in the mythos from the Silmarillion of the Lord of the Rings universe, and that and Tolkien was working on that monomyth, and so whether he knew it or not, he was giving away part of the game, because that level of the story is working on frequency, because Melchior created discord, right? It was all about a song. It was all about the resonant frequency of reality in across all of the whole of the cosmos that Middle Earth is baked into. Excuse me. And Melchior played something that was off key to everyone else, but Illuminar or Iluvatar, I think, was the name of the creator god in their story, which I'd say a big thing Tolkien got wrong was that it was one male god at the top, but that's for another story. But he allowed Melchior to have his discord, because it was interesting. See, work it out, right? He was giving Melchior his free will.
Right, and then where did he get that discord from? What is the creation of that? Is that
purely
dealing with some type of big ball of energy and working with it in some way and observing its expression?
It had an essence of selfishness. Is basically what he said, which, that I don't like the demonization of selfishness, but selfishness, the ego has to be, is treated differently than the rest of the human psyche.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a fifth house Aries over here. So, sorry, I'm a tough nut to crack if you want to break my ego.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things with the ego to look at in the mystery schools of the consciousness that empower the self, and a lot of what is blocking the conscious mind from connecting to the super consciousness and regaining all those things that express in source connection, the inside the heart, every heart technology, then onion layers out from it, an operating system of filing and advancement and growth and higher self, miracle tech, the spirit, the divinity, the time, space, a lot of stuff in the heart. But that comes with purifying the identities of the self and the boundaries of separation that make up the ego of everything you believe you are this lifetime, and the boundary of you and working, because there's a good thing to the boundary, but because it brings safety in and survivability and ability to tune into multiple realities if that somehow goes in chaotic, which I've experienced. So it's ultimately your friend from keeping you from, imagine if your brain went to a whole new tuning of experience and vision through the eyes and everything, to where it changes everything, and your solidified reality starts breaking down or disappears completely, even if you have your eyes open, and it's oh geez. And then it feels like there's a lot of things, depends, the every territory, space, house, continent, planet, realm, every type of bubble of reality and territory has different climates to it. And sometimes it's like the Wild West spiritually. If you tear down a veil of experience that expresses itself in something that's not been well taken care of, or is inhabited by a bunch of things in that layer of reality. So anyway, so in especially the Dark Ages, like the fall of Atlantis, my God, the breakdowns of reality and experience were pretty heavy. So, and the trauma of that lasts throughout our DNA, and like the biggest wound that then manifests in the ego, and a lot of things in negative programming that it holds out of like the helpful part of your brain that goes into survival mode when you need to, and flips in and out. It protects you spiritually and magically, because like there's a bunch of different people that go into ego magic. There's a divinity path with it that connects to the Greek gods, because they seem to be good at it, going back to the Titans and that lineage going back.
Right. Yeah, well, I think like there's always people that feel encouraged to be a spirit of inspiration to a cause, especially one that they get the support from their peers, right? Like somebody has a whole lot of hoorah about the glory of something, and that's your morality level, that, well, as long as it makes our people glorious, I'm all for it. I'll die in battle because I want my son to be proud of the world that I killed for him, right? One of the things that I learned about ego as a defense mechanism, for one thing, it enhances your psychic ability to say no. And, so my ego helped me get through mask mandates, vaccine peer pressure, et cetera, because I had to find the inner voice of the dragon or the inner voice of the lion within me to hold my ground and to show my teeth and pray that you don't ask me to show them any further. Right? It's this kind of thing. You're just protecting. You're just protecting things you value the most. And that's also connected to ego. And some of those things are not wrong. It's just, because like, why is everybody else being selfless? Because they say that you are valuable. So yeah, be selfless, but be selfish sometimes too. That's how I see it. In the Norse mythos, they talk about Hati and Skull. These are the two wolves that are the children of Fenrir. They mean hate and shame. Technically, Skull means treachery, but the implication of the treachery is to shame somebody, right? Now, Hati is trying to swallow the sun. Skull is trying to swallow the moon. The moon is the mind. The sun is the personality, the ego. It is the ego. And the sun is never projected as a negative entity. The sun is always referred to in healthy terms. Serious terms, because you can't just stare at the sun. It doesn't mean to hurt you, but which is why it advises that you don't stare at me. I'm too bright, and I gotta be this bright. Otherwise, I mean you no harm. It's this kind of thing, right? Don't get too exposed to me. I love you all, but get some shade, right? He's just got to shine the way he's got to shine, and we gotta deal with how much that hurts sometimes. So it was a hot day at the garden. I work outside, folks. It says in the Norse wisdom that the moon is strong against hate, right? The moon is what's not trying to be swallowed by Hati. And so the moon runs protection for the sun by taunting the wolf to chase it, is the idea. And then vice versa, the son is taking the other wolf, but sometimes they catch each other. And I think that's where they tell us eclipses come from, or something like that. I think that's how it works, because it's an eclipse narrative as well.
That makes sense.
So because I found that if someone's trying to shame me, then that's an attempt to extinguish my flame, right? So the ego has a very, very hard time standing up against a well conceived attack of shame. So you use your mind, and you outsmart the shaming. You have to have the wit to say something that it can't. It's not going to come from the intellect. It's got to come from this witty place, this witty and wily place in your mind. You have to remember, these wolves are the grandchildren of Loki, so they're operating on a certain level of treachery, because in many respects, like in Vedic mysticism, these could be almost like aspects of Loki itself. And Loki's not even a god. Loki is a very powerful Jotun. He's a spirit. She, it all happens to be a gender fluid spirit, as well as can transform physiologically into anything that it wants to, preferably snakes and fish and things like that. Although, wait, I don't think he can transform into flying things. I think because he needed Freya's cloak to do that. Anyway, I don't want to go into a Norse mythos complete thing here, but this is relevant
That's cool.
to the ego as defense, right? It was my biggest irritation with the New Age movement, was all the pure anti-ego stuff. And I was thinking about what that really meant. And I was thinking about what their personalities were like themselves, and what kind of what it seemed like their inner voice was telling them about themselves in the world. I had to reconcile the suggestion. Hey, can I take that I am off of you? You seem very possessed with your identity. Could I relieve you of that burden, my friend? Right? That's like the implication in the atmosphere there, right? I didn't see it as something that was healthy as the standard. I liked the understanding process of ego death, because I appreciated all the ego deaths that I've been through. I've been bitch slapped a couple times by fate, and I like to think my life is a little less loopy, like as in time loops, where I feel like I'm stuck in the same life for the last 40 years. And that's interesting how that's connected to time in that respect, right? So I'm not saying don't have ego deaths. I'm just saying enjoy having a self.
Yeah. There's everyone. That's the with everyone. It's the beauty of free will. We can choose what we want to experience, and there are many different ways to enjoy the experience for growth and learn it deeply, and then integrate it, and then compress it to where it does it. It takes up a certain occupance of the mind and the working of the body once integrated, and then more capacity to focus on other things. While it's kind of like juggling plates, but in a way that's natural or something, into the mind tree expansion of what you can process all at once. You went into a lot of good subjects. The ego.
This is why I was desperate to get a hold of you for a couple of years.
And I can also go into the other questions you had before, but
Right.
Ego, it's like formed off of a pure spirit as a survival mechanism for the environment, and it compresses trauma and protects you, and then creates a greater and greater capability to protect you through the stimuli, training it. A lot of times it gets negative programs from its inheritance from DNA, which is a lot, and past lives and
Norseman. That's a big thing I picked up on. Is I could see like the trend of the spirit of arrogances amongst the very heroic and brave noblest of men in our history. You can see where a lot of that was there as part of the product of a very brutal time that built these men.
And it's the stuff that worked and helped you survive gets passed down genetically, and it's an interesting way to encode habit and fate, like habit pattern for DNA lineage and consciousness and each individual. And so there's a lot of different threads to what can influence fate of a person, going from the core of them or externally, depending on the skill that's used. And I agree. The ego can be. I like using the Orphic egg symbology for it. It's like a serpent wrapped around an egg. You would be the divine egg being birthed to be either get and the serpent is the ego to either get strangled by it if it doesn't like you or it's overwhelmed with negativity, or it will protect the egg to grow greater and brighter, like as if imagine it's getting brighter and brighter as a light, but it goes at a pace that's limited based on it camouflaging itself and not attracting huge amounts of negativity to try to steal its light. And then the ego protects for that purpose. So if you can't ever kill it. Ego death isn't really an accurate term. It purifies with the higher self and a bunch of other reflections back up and down having to do with the systems of the consciousness of the body from like higher self or lower self, or so it'd be part of the lower self entourage of a bunch of different versions of the self. And the higher self can also be categorized in itself of its makeup. And they, as they unify together, it makes this nice, beautiful, symbolic growth pattern that takes you. It's like uniting light and dark together internally, and there's more than that to unite because there's a bunch of polarities to bring together. There's always some really emotionally compassionate, energetic generation that's huge and evolutionary to utilize. I try to utilize it every day when I work out, or breath work and yoga and meditation and focus and visualization, and all the formulas can be put together to make a strong magical engagement in transmuting, transforming, changing your life and consciousness and evolution to the greatest degree with the time you have in this experience, which can be utilized for a lot of powerful things if you utilize time. Everyone can interact with the Time Wars if they want. They already are, but there's degrees of how much of an effect they would want to have on the world, and what it takes to do that. I recommend going within and resolving everything you inherited and are, and integrating the cells and all the secrets in the body, and then it amplifying everything you're already emitting and creating and good at, to then help you get back all your old skills and your new skills and become your greatest self and be able to emanate a bunch of things in authority, in time and space, and traveling your consciousness back throughout your timeline and healing it up, making sure no new programs are being added at any point in your childhood, etc., or protecting you in the future with like large supply systems of health packets to prepare for any negative experience, and prepare for grander lives for the future. And then, and going back to previous lives and healing all those things, and then gaining more authority with it. What'd you say?
About a minute to go.
Okay. And going into what you need in wholeness for yourself. And then you earn authority in alignment with natural law to be able to extend to greater management over not just yourself, but the territory and the beings around it, especially the places you have already greater authority in, you building off of that in having to do with your soul experiences and its creation in different territories and timelines. And maybe it created the territory itself in some places. So that's what to build off of, and then earn trust with the overarching authorities that already exist in territories like the Fates, and go through their schools and observe and bring things to a better state of being for all consciousness, is how you earn more of it.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that all hits. Yeah, that all hits real proper like. I think when we get back from the break, I think we got to start talking in some of the more particulars of what actually is going on, because I think we got a great foundation here. Guys, we'll be right back. My guest tonight is Sean Bond.
This is iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move.
When you have a great melody,
a song lasts
Forever. Instantly connected.
I love it when the beat goes.
Did you know you can listen to Truth Frequency Radio on iHeartRadio? Just download the app to your smart car, smartphone, or smart TV and get the best of TFR wherever you are.
iHeartRadio.
I'll see you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. Let me handle it. Don't say that, you stupid son of a bitch. Let me handle it. I was going to show them how good I am. Let me handle it. Let me handle it. This is easy. Let me handle it. And I made the mistake. Why would you give up a primetime show? My life was so simple, and then I did it, and look what happened. Now we got to make it great again. Our country's embarrassed. The whole world is laughing at us. But is there any place better to be than a Trump rally? Crooked Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. How would you like to have her as your wife? What kind of a sick, perverted mind does that? Bill Clinton, he's living in fear. Other than that, how are things going? Global pandemic in the middle of the pandemic. Where's your mask? Where's your mask? You have to remember. Where's your mask? Where's your mask? Where's your mask? Where's your mask? You have to remember. Then you're not supposed to get set up. Let me handle it. Don't say that, you stupid son of a bitch. Let me handle it. I was going to show them how good I am. Let me handle it. Let me handle it. This is easy. Let me handle it. And I made the mistake. And a person who's very low-key, the press does not treat fairly. She's really tough, and she's really, really smart. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is real. The Green New Deal, surprise, it serves China and China only. You know, really what all this is going to do is help this man out the most. President Xi of China. It's sad. Really, 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 really sad. China. It's sad. Really, 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 really sad.
Let me handle it. Don't say that, you stupid son of a bitch. Let me handle it. I was going to show them how good I am. Let me handle it. Let me handle it. This is easy. Let me handle it. And I made the mistake.
Make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Zerilath on TFRLive.com. This is Tri-Genesis. My special guest tonight is Sean Bond of PsionicLeague.com. Excuse me. And we are talking about the Time Wars as well as how to defend yourself and be an influence upon the Time Wars and to be able to navigate and basically like get through life with a future that's, you know, within acceptable standards of life. And you know what? I forgot to ask in the last segment, so I got to come up front with it before we jump into the cliffhanger question that I left us. Back in 2020, all of my colleagues back in my Revolution Radio days, who were also very savvy on various things happening in the cosmological interdimensionals, the other aliens, the gods and spirits, all the same level that we're on. We're talking about the bifurcation of the timeline. And a bunch of people were just saying that independently of each other. Just saying the bifurcation, like bifurcation became this buzzword through 2020 and into maybe early 2021, the bifurcation of the timeline. I think it makes sense that we're not hearing that so much now because the pressure of that spirit is I don't feel its effect anymore, but there was a consensus that something critical was happening in the timeline that was affecting 2020 harder than the timeline's been affected in a long time. And it made sense to me because we saw the exact opposite of the world that seemed to be fixing itself by 2019. Because of course, outside of politics, there was a lot of things that you could objectively say, I'm glad those things changed, like ISIS is no longer a problem, and a bunch of people are living their best lives that were struggling just a few years ago because a bunch of things changed in the way we treat ourselves or work in the business place and so on and so forth. And to me, I said, wow, everything's getting better. And I could see direct relationships. I don't like to do Trump humping, especially because I felt that 2020 was kind of a failure for the president, and puts him back into the not so special people like every other politician. It's because it hurt too much. I hated the way he handled it. But bifurcation of the timeline. And my biggest note is that we're talking about this bifurcation of timelines during the time that the North Node of the Moon takes its about 2-year transit of Gemini. And Gemini is a planet, or is a constellation of the twins. It implies duality.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with the duality thing and representation of most of this reality. It's part of the makeup. Not every reality is dual reality and could be tri or like other geometric forms and representation of the basis change of the experience and perception. And then, but a lot of the advanced creators, like this realm seems to be a like melting pot of a large amount of experience all in one place, formed by multiple forms of life, and then the ability to make it HD and beautiful and vibrant and solidified in such a degree is a lot to do with the makeup of like why we're here and why we're given amnesia and why we kind of get a certain amount of time here or more if we go through the proper education to what action it takes to live longer. And all the matrices and the chess players on the bifurcation. I guess I've heard a bunch of different definitions from people in what they believe it is. You said for the timeline, so to I guess how I'd define it is the authorities having to do with Earth, time influential beings that are older, less older, or delegated by Earth.
Kind of like there's positive and negative timeline from Project Looking Glass, as I understood it from the disclosures of Bill Brockbrader, and a lot of the people I knew were Project Looking Glass knowledgeable and were kind of coming to the conclusion based on various things, their sources, et cetera, that this was this is the war that is involved with the results of Project Looking Glass, and that's what and that's a big part of what we were going through. Seemed to be one of the theories. Well, I call it a theory. Those guys, I believe they're certain of it. And it resonates. I'm not 100% sure if it's exactly the way they see it, but we had good times discussing that stuff.
Yeah, I would say a good way to describe is grouping together the intentions of the chess players in it, either a creative, positive, or negative, destructive, of the reality bubble and its timeline equation for all the different choice points of the consciousness within it and what they want to create and manifest or destroy, or all the different variations of the spectrum in between, based on awareness of themselves and what is truth and waking up to their true source intention, and or opposing it if if a branch was born in the dark spectrums and is rebelling to the light, or vice versa, the light to the dark, in betrayals or of intention, or for an experience of originality, and then that can have opportunities to branch off of it in the future, or if it's purely evil and not useful for the overarching expression and shared desire of evolution and intention of what we want to create, and not just like destroy the universe. And because everyone a lot of people want to play the game, so it's kind of going against the majority consciousness's will. So there's a lot to in the separation process. It usually right now it's down to happening every year around the solstice, the point of most sun, and then it starts a purification system that fractals down from greater bodies of light down to the galaxy, solar system, and the Earth, and like pulses from the sun and electromagnetic field of Earth receiving, and aurora borealis, and a lot of its auric field and aura field of like the aurora field, and that then extends to the human bodies in like upgrades of light or influence and update, all that. And so and the body and all the fractal aspects of light and experience do this process that I also talked about with the prime dark and prime light source and their separation from each other, and then the equation of their chess moves of what to do with that in like what they both inherit, the negative motions and the reflections that we experience in thought and mind and creation and urges and direction, goals, all the makeup of their consciousness, and that expressing itself in its soul fractals that it puts in chess moves of players on this planet and people or other species, and what they're all, the system of their DNA lineage, inheritance, their environment, is continuing down the lineage to have an influence wherever it goes, like all these other species, to us and what we're dealing with, because they're a conscious reflection of the self, and they can represent something that we're dealing with internally too, and it all kind of be able to shift with each other. As you heal yourself, you can change the DNA lineage, the soul family, the other versions of you that then have a ripple effect into everything those things touch and interact with and experience, to then affecting the collective around it, to heal, to get smarter, to out chess move habit patterns.
To empathically get everybody attuned to the achievement of best frequency that you've attained, which then just kind of helps tertiarily people even secondary to that, even if they don't necessarily have some sort of a transformation.
Yeah, it can be low level ranging to high level of effect or effect on the self. Usually, if it has a large effect on the self, you'll affect a lot of other things connected to you. So it's like a big flash of energy or light or influence or change or programming, and then it can cause a lot of things, especially if it's combined with other actions. You can evolve even deeper into the consciousness in the body. And there's a lot of things to evolve, so it can take like years. Some people have DNA secrets that would take past their lifetime usually, so then it's like, are you going to extend your life and do what it takes to do that? And then the chess game moves of prioritizing what you need to learn first to be able to live longer and integrate more knowingness and the tech that it takes to manifest in this very solidified 3D world with lots of limitations and things getting resolved along with us. And then the rule system to not change the narrative and how that works. And if everything about it is for our benefit, not really. There is a certain percentage, though, with the light maintaining themselves, but with the incursions and invasions that goes along with, if they're really big ones, they can hack into the reality, and then there's a war over what manifests. A lot of it being utilized in alignment with natural law of, creating lessons in karmic creation, but evil gets in the way of like that needing to be at its best state of being, to even going past what it needs to be, and messing up a lot of realities, and even getting people to commit suicide and all these other things that can overwhelm a person in experience past what they can reasonably deal with, that kind of beats them down and keeps them asleep, or all the different spectrums of what can happen to a person when the dark the dark intentions amplify their presence in an environment of a person's experience. So, sorry, I can't remember all of your questions after bifurcation.
No, that's okay. because we were getting into this was getting into the big aspect of the topic, which is the actual particulars of the war in real time happening now. Basically talking about the names of the big players, what their objectives are, and why it is important to keep these preserved. Right, the question of what affects us personally, what affects us perhaps tertiarily, and what perhaps doesn't affect us at all, but it's pretty damn bad, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for refreshing. Yeah, a lot of people, if you're not spiritual, and this will when your reality bubble and timeline are being incurred on, a lot of people are pretty much everyone has a bit of this throughout their timeline in some way, because of it, unless you're like living in a cave and barely interact with people, there will be things that happen when everyone has an internal war inside them going on that they inherit from incarnation or reincarnation, in forgetting who they were before. And there's why would anyone even be in a karmic remedy system that grinds people down through negative experiences to resolve all the stuff that's bogging them down and has been limiting them from all these other lives? And if they're like finally asking that question previously before coming to Earth, why do I have all these limitations on me after going through all these experiences, and some of the negative ones, things attaching themselves, stealing energy, targeting people you love, or killing your other incarnations, or drama, tragedy, invasions of worlds, all kinds of stuff that one as a soul traveling throughout and making all these good relationships and experiences with different soul family groups, that they gain care of the creation that is reflecting their inner consciousness, especially if they see everyone as them, which is a good thing to cultivate. Because you can cultivate both the identity of the self in value and creation, branching off of, and going into self-less states, like what Buddhism talks about, to get rid of all suffering and reach a state of nirvana. So there's like a balance between them, and then when you get the balance between them and learn what they're good at and their purpose is, you can unite them in the expression of boundaries, but to shine your own light of purification, and then utilize them when necessary. And a lot of people, a good utilization for the ego is like, if you get attacked and like there's a big thing, the ego will prevent a lot of it from encroaching deeper into the light source within. And then you assess the situation as that's getting fought with, and then the light shines brighter with the reflection of what's appearing to it, and then the light is really good at learning things. It may take a little longer than some expressions of dark, because dark likes to steal things, or take abilities from the thing it's fighting or whatever, if it's utilizing nicely, because theft doesn't have to be the expression of darkness, but evil usually expresses it because it doesn't see everything as itself and as tools, or like going into the negative versions of solipsism of not like what psychopaths will have when they're emotionless and they don't connect with anyone, and that they're willing to just kill because they don't feel everything.
See solipsism as negative.
Yeah, it can be positive or negative depending on the wisdom nugget that was taken from it, having to do with you are everything. But like, if you harm other beings, you're ultimately harming yourself, and it creates more blocks on yourself because it shows up in your body and connection. So it's a weird. That's just one faction of that different solipsists will go into different expressions, but it can be a mind prison if it's the negative one. It can be a freeing thing if you take the nugget of truth having to do with it. And then, there's a lot of philosophy that people can learn from that is passed down to us of many different types. So it's fun. What do you use when you're integrating these two aspects of light and dark inside you? How do you see them coming together in unity?
I got a lot of guidance of that, looking at the archetypes of different kinds of anti-heroes, like later comic books about like Venom from the Spider-Man comic universe, right? When he was an anti-hero style character, which maybe I really loved the two Venom movies. They were really, I thought they were really cool. I thought Carnage could have been a little bit better, but I still liked it overall. I like Woody Harrelson as an actor. I know that he's in a few conspiracies himself. And Spawn and things like that. So that gave me a lot. And you know what? Oh, that's right. I wanted to mention this. I read, and for everybody listening, it's on my YouTube channel. You can go to my Carl Jung playlist on the Collective Unconscious. I read the entire book, and towards the end of the book are a number of mandalas. Because it talks about mandalas and their reflection of the human psyche, and many of the pictures have a page or so talking about each one, and each one of these were drawn by anonymous patients of Dr. Jung. I think most of them were women, and many of these mandalas had an Orphic egg style to it, where it was a mandala, but the outside of the mandala circularly, there would always be some sort of snake, a snake trying to make some sort of interest in penetration. Thus, the snake taking on the role of the semen.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so I went through all of those different kinds of things, but of course it's the application, because there's a bunch of people that have absorbed all those things, but then they, it's entertainment and it's intellectual masturbation for them. It's not exploring that, right? Because it suggests a fantasy world, and you want to be respected by the adults in the room. Right, and that's the ego getting in the way of having a cooler ego. That's like that's like your shitty "I hate myself" ego saying no, there's no such things as gods and dragons and fairies, and you're not powerful. Just go to work. Oh, I forgot my mask. I don't have time for this. Right? That's what's going on. Right.
Yeah, I agree. Good expression for that.
I
read that with people. And
I looked at a lot of things that made me angry and sad. That when you're a small child and you're confused with how you're supposed to be having your Catholic relationship with being a good boy and things like that. And you keep doing wrong, and you're not sure what's sin or what's just mom and dad being right or wrong about something in your head, or all these little things. And I had to go back and I had to kind of embrace all of that just to process it and realize like why I was being so stubborn about following those rules. Like, really, why? Like, there was a deep emotional thing, right? So it was directly connected to some deep emotional hold that I now know is directly connected to my dharma, to my incarnation path. You know, I'm a one on was it life path 1 or something like that is what I am, right? And I think life path 1 is like, it's very powerful, but it's also very narrow, right? So that is kind of like why I'm in so much arrested development, because I've been struggling to dance to crack what was kind of put there by trauma of being like, you know, for some weird behaviors that I had that were wrong and perhaps a little bit scary. And for some reason I had these emotional swings. It took me a long time to fix my relationship with that. I want to say greetings to Alan Holman, who just entered the chat room on TFR Live. Thanks for being here. I'm talking to Sean Bond, and this is we're talking about various aspects of the Time Wars, as well as some interesting stuff here. Oh, man, there's about 10 seconds till the break, and I don't want to make this whole thing about me, but I'll wrap it up very nicely because I get 3 minutes to think. I'll see you guys in 3 minutes.
You're never, ever, ever, ever going to feel like doing the things you need to do in order to have what you want. You're always going to need to push yourself. You're always going to need to parent yourself. So what is the net advice on this? What is the bottom line? The bottom line is no one's coming. No one. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. Nobody's coming to tell you to apply for that job that you've always dreamt about. Nobody's coming to write the business plan for you. It's up to you. And because you're only ever going to do the things that you feel like doing right now or that feel good right now, unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you've got to push yourself, you're not going to make your dreams come true.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine. Great for heart palpitations. By Anne. Before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc. I love this product. It really works. By Brad. Works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Sargent from Strange World, broadcasting live every Tuesday evening, 10 to 12 Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Strange World covers a wide range of topics, from enclosed world theory to lunar waves to the end of the world in film. It's basically doomsday with a silver lining. With the audience as my co-host, we take an optimistic approach to all things conspiracy and promote confidence, hope, and humor whenever possible. If there's a topic you want us to cover or a guest you would like to see interviewed, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. So please join me and tell your friends about Truth Frequency Radio, the leader in real radio programming, bringing you quality, cutting-edge broadcasts from around the world.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TLR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, guys, what is going on? Welcome back. It is 7:30, last segment of the show. My guest tonight is Sean Bond. This is Zerilath on Trigenesis here on TFRLive.com. I was just having a little chit-chat with Alan in the chat room. He's giving me some great words of encouragement, and I thank you for that. No, it's all good, man, because I also know that the archive is right there. You know, people check that out. No, I'm all right. I'm all right. I don't mind that, like, not necessarily anybody's here. If I'm inspired to have a good show, I will have a good show. It'll be on the record. I'll be proud of it. And then when they nuke the internet, I'll be like, well, that was fun. Why? Because, yes, I get it. Buddhism and attachment. I will just let it go so fast. It won't even be funny. Because I know who I am, and I know that I don't need that to be me, and that's all I care about. Aha! Ego! How's it going, Sean?
Good. How are you?
Oh,
How's your
fantastic.
break? So it's been so long. There's so much
Right.
time.
Okay, so let me finish up the answer to your question. And then you can tell the audience the significance of that. So I was talking about how I basically am integrating my shadow, the light and the dark part of the soul, as I see it, right? And it goes back to having to deal with being put in a situation of the confusion of what it is to be good, what it is to be bad. Not evil, but bad. But then again, you see people that are evil being treated the same way as somebody who is simply being bad. And then you get confused about these things, right? And then the tactics are often built on, shame or harsh words or whatever. Like I just, I was man, I don't know what it was with me, right? But I think I do now, right? Because last week when we talked, you told me that, like, you're a werewolf and a dragon. Well, shit, So my parents, these Catholic parents, are trying to raise a monster. It's like I think those spirits were just in charge, right? Those spirits are kind of like a bull in a china shop, very much like a bull in a china shop, where you're just trying to do this one thing, and then somehow your hips just have to hit the wall, right? It's stuff and that's me. Like, I can lumber around, like my body needs space. I used to be fat. Like a year ago, I was like 200 and some odd pounds at 5'6". So I was fat. And now I'm practically a size 30 waist from a 38, right? But still, I can manage to be lumbery, even though I'm more nimble now. But it's the energetic kind of lumbery, right? Because of boundary issues, because I liked being rambunctious and loud and whatever, and then I had a temper, and then my temper also, my dad also had a temper, and so we were there was kind of that father animosity issue which became such a thing because I was not on the resonant energy of my parents. There are times as a kid where like I just went through way too many times, I felt, of saying, these can't be my real parents. I mean, they're my real parent. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I get it. Like, I look like my dad, but damn it, why don't I feel like my dad? Right? Or my mom. Right? Like, if I'm a dragon, it implies I'm a king. And, just like, why have I been born in like this, or everything is limited, or I have to work this hard for all this crap, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it makes sense because I have Neptune, Sagittarius, Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn, also Uranus and Pluto, all the big planets, but those that I mentioned first, those in particular, all have been really detrimental to my personal development, where they're set. I was set to learn all sorts of arrested development type of lessons, similar to many of the people that are not, that have maybe given up on developing themselves, right? I certainly won't give up, even if I never get out.
Nice. Well described. It goes into a lot, like arrested development, kind of similar. A lot of people will resonate. I've had as well. And it's, like getting out of it, because like being born into a system of people that want to control you and aren't like accepting of you fully for who you are as you are, and not needing to change you. And that's what can connect people a lot, because the acceptance is what allows reality bubbles to connect more, and safely and trusting to like full power exchange and support. But a lot of things happen when people get wounded and full of pain, where that pain starts to change their personality and then bring them to a state where they react negatively with others, or can't like throw their shadow at each other, or start wars, or all kinds of different states of drama in fulfilling their emotions and emotional state and wounded state in that, and thinking that's alignment with reality or the best possible timeline they could create, from being overwhelmed with it. So the best thing to do is to transmute that before you create, and you gain a clear perspective of what the best possible timeline is. Most people that have bad incursions or trauma that happened to them will experience their life in more and more manifesting bad luck. It seems to go in a negative direction. We have the ability to take control of that and figure out why, and like what are the causations, and formulate that as we form our good boundaries, and we find what we need to empower ourselves with or reconnect to in our self. It's like a swinging pendulum for most people, going back and forth between the states of being and consciousness and alters of mind, and the archetypes of the self, and the containers of negative emotion and experience that influence thoughts that then circulate what the energy and motion of emotion throughout your body is functioning with in generations, or energy coming in externally, that make up the makeup of your hologram of light splitting infinitely. The parent thing, a lot of people are dealing with that too. Most people aren't born in their greatest soul family. With the Archon grid at the fall of Atlantis set up as a saddle over the natural incarnating grid of Earth, and her main will, there's a subverting will and controlling will that's a chess game into itself, because the Archons themselves have consciousness that can be influenced. Some can become good or get resolved in some way. based on how they're generated and created and put into a management system up and down of that. And then finding our greatest soul family is a big part of the chess game of why we're here. That would empower us in our main goal of creation. A lot of people have other types of parents that are greater in expression and feeling of emotion and connection. Like you have a list in your heart that will represent that in your soul family. A good question to ask is, who are my parents or my divine parents, or like, ancient creation will bring into an experience versions of parental figures that have a strong connection with you in your heart, and would you can ask like which ones would fall in a grenade for you is a good question, or most likely to, and then range the care that they have, and a lot of those will be good ones to work with because they're very unlikely to betray you.
Right.
And then the heart
and
connection.
Don't get me wrong. I just want to say, don't get me wrong. My father, there's a certain level of sacrifice he would do, but he's surprised me with certain levels of sacrifice that he has done, and I don't doubt that he cares.
Right. Yeah, it's just he's in a state of pain and has inherited negative emotions that make up the makeup of his day each time. It's like there's an inheritance of a lot of negative emotions through the family lineage. If they don't resolve it, it gets passed down. Like you might be, as an example, my dad is very angry and he's like manifesting illnesses with that in his liver, and that's one of the organs that processes it the most, and the more anger we have, it causes illnesses, and it can be utilized though. You combine it with love, and it turns into energetic, like you're on coffee type of. It's like releasing blocks.
I'm actually having an auditory deja vu in real time. Everything that you just said in response about my father, about dealing with the negative energies and stuff like that, I've heard that before.
Cool.
I've heard that before. So that's wild. All right, so that's cool. That's very cool. That's groovy. All right,
you might have inherited like two of your ancestors' worth of anger that need to be resolved, and so you can see the causation of others without blaming them and uniting with them, and it's like, well, I can turn this into something positive by transmuting all the anger into, because it depends on what it is. It could be anger, it could be hate, it could be wrath. Hate has to do with you having a target of hating something, and then you're putting a bunch of energy into having like ill will towards that in manifestation, or an offense or protecting something you love is like a lot of things that generate it. Either or you love yourself or other people, you can get anger, and frustration and anger can also be a block to your greater power, because if it's inputted on you from others, it's like they're trying to shut down your energy or drain energy from it, and then kind of drain you from experiencing that energy instead, and then you bust out of those prisons by doing an action. Just do it away from people, and if you have a lot of anger, like, oh, excuse me, I got to go let out my anger and trigger or whatever. You don't have to say that, but if you do some type of action, dance, working out, punching bag, some type of action you'll love, running, all kinds of, whatever it could be. It could be qigong and doing breath work and then exploding it outward and combining it with love. And it resolves a lot of the reality entangled with you. The problems just go away if you combine it with love and get it into like an excitement way to increase the amount of energy you have in your body.
My best is if I can, make music with people, me on guitar, and ideally if there's at least a drummer, then that'll do the trick for what I would need if I was playing to get it out, right? Because I find making the savage gesture something that really gets it out. If I roar like a bear, it gets it gets a certain tension out of the system, creates a disturbance in the area, but it's just a roar. It's nothing unnatural.
Right. Yeah, roars are good. Internal roars, you don't even have to make a noise, but the energetic release of it, and it's like it's like somebody doing a transformation in Dragon Ball Z kind of thing, but without noise.
Yeah, that's what's going on in my head.
It's a yang.
All these things are happening in my head,
Yeah, it's a yang explosion. It's centrifugal. It's releasal. It's dispersal. It's there'll be two ways to generate energy in the yin and the yang, pulling in energy from the environment, either a positive or negative way. The positive way is farming with it to make it generate more energy than it would have, and not like steal anything from it, like uniting with it. And then the vampiric way. Then the yang way is like generating from the void, tapping into the void and then generating outward in like an explosion from your energetic generator centers, like in the solar plexus, the Dantian, the heart, the gut brain, the brain, pineal, a lot of organs. And it can be an orchestra that can turn
the
on.
yin yang hands in qigong is a part of my my qigong meditations that I do every morning.
Nice. Yeah, and since you're like I also have dealt with what you're dealing with. A lot of men do. We can handle it more, so it usually gets inherited to us. The anger. The women will inherit other things they're better at, dealing with.
Right.
But and if a woman is good at anger, because she can be, depending on who she's been and DNA, etc., then she can handle it. It's just a commonality. But
yeah.
And
Aries women, where are my Aries women at?
Yeah, exactly.
They know.
Yeah, and then so
I only have one Aries woman that it didn't work out with, and it sucks that it didn't work out. But oh
well. So I'd read that you have like 5 places you're storing the inherited anger, and it's mostly from them. So it's like your heart, your liver, your thymus, what's that? The small intestines, and the pancreas.
what?
So
no kidneys?
So what'd you say?
What? No kidneys?
You are storing other things there, but not that I'm reading. More of like the adrenaline,
Okay. Yeah.
like anxiety and stress and stuff.
For the folks at home, 3 days ago, I suffered a kidney stone, my very first one. Oh, it was fun going to the hospital. All right, continue.
Yeah, that will be a mechanism that sometimes if the stone gets too big, it's negative. It's like hijacking of the mechanism of the timeline, because it takes time to create that. It'll usually be a way for the kidney to detox stones, but it depends on the diet and what type of water and juices you're intaking, which will affect the cycle of it, and it will get too big, and that's not good. Right. But otherwise, it would release
I drink a lot of
shadow.
I definitely drink a lot of water, a lot. And I'm drinking, when I'm at home, I'm drinking fluoride-free, heavy metal free water through my zero water filter. And when I'm at work, like half the day I'm on the zero water from my bottle, and then I'm filling up with their water. I don't know exactly what it is, but the ladies all told me that it's fluoride free because they're actually they're savvy to a thing or two, and they don't like fluoride in the water either. And these are all forests. They care about what water they're giving their plants and such. So that's an element of it.
Right. It feels like, enough. Like, what does a state got to do to get them to stop putting fluoride in our water? Well, it needs a bunch of people angry about it and bringing in action, because anger gets shit done. The righteous anger.
It takes a while to break their relationship with fluoride, because you have to understand, it's not just that they don't even really talk about how they fluoridate the water supply, which is also something that they know. It is also that it narratively, regardless of scientific facts that they choose not to look at, because they leave that to the experts that they trust in the society that they trust, that that there's nothing wrong with drinking fluoride at all, at any level that they would approve. Because unfortunately, that's where the unconscious masses are at now. And it was one of the things that was kind of emotionally traumatizing, was like seeing the actual, like, no, that's not just people on TV acting. No, everybody's in a mask. No, everybody's going along. My God, this isn't just a television stunt. They're all programmed. Like, it scared the fuck out of me for 5 fucking seconds. You know? Ugh.
Yeah, it's a pretty big black pill and, dark truth that unravels a whole bunch of the veils of, like, oh yeah, the government's here for our best interest, they're here to help, or whatever. It's like their main goal is control and influence, utilizing it for profit and the best experience they can have, and utilizing us as tools. And the more psychopathic you go up the chain, it's like, oh geez.
Unfortunately, they're pretty, they've built a perfect amount of comfort for that, right? And what's more comfortable than being in house arrest? What's more comfortable than being locked in your own home, where you've got a pillow and running water and electricity and video games and all these different things, but you can't.
Distraction.
You need permission to leave. God, Australia. Ugh, it's still ugly. It's still ugly over there. Ugh.
Yeah, the prison of distraction in the mind, and programming the ego to be its own prison through the incursion in the ego boundaries in psychology, that people will lie, cheat, steal, kill in order to protect their established ego boundaries. In the jailer, that's self-programmed in the mind that we have to get past as a gatekeeper as we expand outward in belief system bubbles, based on what's evident and not what people tell us, and reevaluating and auditing all the beliefs that are handed to us with evidence, especially the overarching ones that can dispel a bunch of the connecting ones, and go into the direction of empowerment, truth, beyond wanting to prove something we already hold, wanting to find absolute connected objective truth of the connection between all perspectives, and objective perceiving of light coming to us.
3 minutes.
Yeah. And then the state of belief that builds off that, next to the stream of knowingness, that can negatively create or positively create as a tree that expands ourself or gets us to remember. The fluoride, anyone that wants to just like dispel, like, oh yeah, fluoride's good for you, it's good for your teeth, it's so good, it's the only ingredient in rat poison. It's not good for you. It causes fluorisis, yellowing of teeth. It's most dentists you'll ask are very indoctrinated, even if they're waking up in a lot of other things. They dare not question that.
I like activated charcoal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And before Nazi Germany started using it in the water supply to dumb down people, because it was seen in tests. What?
The gulags. The Soviets and the gulags did it too.
Yeah, and it's used as like a disinfectant kind of thing in the water, with also chlorine and other stuff. This was used iodine was used, and it was actually better, and it made you smarter when you put it in there. But they took that out because they can't have a smart civilization because they start asking questions, and then if the power is dark, then it's not a moral center of approval, and
I use iodized
with the free will of the society.
Yep, I cook almost exclusively with iodized salt.
Oh, nice. Well, I don't know if that's exactly what that is, but
It's iodine infused salt. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so we could be doing that, but it makes us dumber and lowers IQ in studies. So whatever can do that, you can probably find in the food supply somewhere. And it's like, what are the backdoor deals that are being done that aren't being audited in our food supply?
Hey, Sean, 30 seconds. Thank you so much for being here. Please use the last 30 seconds to plug your work.
Sure. I'm at PsionicLeague.com on PsionicLeague YouTube. My name is Sean Bond. You can reach for consultations, video products, abilities, and healing and all that. I love you all. Thank you for listening. And can you plug your work?
Yes, and I am Zerilath, the host of this show, and you can find me on YouTube as Zerilath. I also happen to do divination and rune reading, Zerilath at freedomslips.com. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.